Hi,
Hello,
guys.
hello.
Oh, is this?
It's loud.
Oh, this is on. Okay, good. Hi, guys. Hi.
It's bright. Can you hear us? Like too much or
it's-
perfect? Okay.
Good. All right, guys. Welcome to the 3-year anniversary of Emerald Coast Storytellers. That is so crazy to hear that out loud. Thank you, everyone. Throughout the night, I'm seeing a lot of new faces. I'm seeing some old faces as well. And I mean, Christy and I always say to each other that we would not be here, without the community support. So thank you again. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you. But we started this community with the hope of bringing big city culture to our small beach town, and tonight's gathering is a reflection of that dream. We host monthly events and creative meetups centered around the written and spoken word, including storytelling nights like tonight, writing nights, workshops, story pairing dinners, and more. Before we dive in, we just want to take a moment to say how incredibly special tonight is for us.
It feels like literally just yesterday. I also said and a million years ago that we were sitting around my kitchen table in Grayton with a bottle of wine, and we were like, I think we have something here. So we had no idea what we were building, just a gut feeling that there were stories here that needed to be heard and people who needed a space to tell them. What's come out of that dream is something far bigger than we could have ever imagined. And standing here 3 years later, surrounded by so many familiar faces and new ones, we feel overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you for showing up. Whether you've been with us since the very beginning or just found your way here tonight, this community exists because of you guys.
I also just want to shout out that normally when we have a bottle of wine, good ideas are not coming out of that. Normally it's bad ideas, so shout out to the cab we had that night.
Speak for yourself.
It worked really well. But tonight's event is made possible by some incredible partners. So a very special thank you to Emerald Coast Theater Company. Round of applause for hosting us in their beautiful space. Be sure to check out their website and socials to see what's playing and how you can support. Shout out to Charcuterie by Shelley, Good. Oh my gosh, I've eaten half of that, so hopefully you guys are eating it too. And then also a huge shout out to our program partner, the Cultural Arts Alliance. We're honored to be a part of their mission to advance the arts in Walton County.
And what better way to celebrate our 3-year anniversary than with some unforgettable stories? We've got a stellar lineup of local writers, poets, and storytellers tonight, including our fabulous, in every definition of the word, featured storyteller Lisa Burwell of V Magazine. Woo! As for this month's theme, it's defining moments. Some moments make us, some break us, but all shape us. They can arrive with a bang or barely make a sound. Sometimes we recognize them right away, other times only in hindsight. Whether it's a bold leap forward, a quiet shift, a hard lesson, or a long-awaited breakthrough, these are the moments that change our direction, deepen our character, and leave a lasting mark. As we celebrate 3 years of stories, voices, and community, we invite you to reflect on the turning points that helped define you. The ones that became part of your personal mythology, etched into your timeline, and woven into your narrative.
And in honor of these 3 wonderful years, we're doing a few special giveaways tonight. So keep your ears open, and we'll have some fun trivia and chances to win throughout the evening.
Should we start with the first?
Okay, are you guys ready to win some stuff? That's right.
I'll be the Vanna White model.
Okay.
Just walking.
Tote bag. You could take it to, fits right in at Whole Foods and...
I was thinking the beach, maybe?
Yeah, and the beach, yes.
So for this one, let's see a show of hands. How many people, this is their first storytellers? All right. I guess maybe we should, okay, how about a trivia question for the first people?
Okay.
When were we established?
And if you
cheating.
don't get it, you have to leave. I'm just kidding.
What year? Okay, who raised their hand and also answered? It's really hard to see.
Wait, we're doing this wrong.
Okay, woo! Good job.
You get a bag, and you get a bag.
We had to start with a low bar because
Yeah.
it's only going to get better.
Yep. That's the wine right there. I'm just kidding.
You are right there.
Oh, okay, and with that, let's raise a glass to storytelling, connection, and community. Here's to the moments that brought us here and the ones still yet to come. Cheers, guys! Cheers! And then to kick things off, we're so excited to bring up Lucinda Bunn as our guest MC for the evening. Yeah, let's give it up for Lucinda. When she's not singing or creating art, you will find her at the beach first thing. Oh, no, I mean, you're good. Yeah, I'm like, you're waiting in the wing. But yes, when she's not singing or creating art, you will find her at the beach first thing in the morning when the universe turns on the lights. One of our original members of Emerald Coast Storytellers, Lucinda is currently writing and illustrating a children's story and looks forward to being a featured storyteller here upon completing her book. So let's please welcome Lucinda to the stage.
Woohoo!
I'll be the one that makes the feedback happen right away. Look, it didn't. Okay, hi, how are you? Okay, good, just making sure you're breathing. I am a storyteller. It's genetic. It began in the Big Apple, where my father, stage name Jimmy Blaine, was a broadcaster and singer. He was also a Peabody Award nominee for his work with Up With People, an organization created in the 1960s for young adults to have a way to interact with the world through positivity and music. The mission? To bring people together for the common good, regardless of ideology, political affiliation, ethnicity, race, or religion. My mother, not stage named Phyllis Bunn, got her degree in journalism amidst the cornfields of Southern Illinois before going to the Big Apple to chase her dreams. She met my father in an ABC elevator where she was working at the time. Prior to that, she was a fashion writer for Women's Wear Daily, a highly acclaimed women's magazine. Then came the children. Jim is the oldest, 9 years older than me. He has 6 Emmys and a Peabody to his credit for his journalistic storytelling. This includes on-the-scene coverage of Ground Zero and the war in Afghanistan, and for his collaboration with the World Health Organization at the onset of the AIDS epidemic in San Francisco. He is the co-founder of World AIDS Day, one of my proudest things about him besides the fact that he's just my brother. Then came Susan, 1 year younger than Jim. Also a storyteller, my sister began in radio and TV as a journalist, later moving on to the stage and screen. 9 years later, surprise, Cindy's here, that's me. Growing up in these tall shadows made it hard to see my light, but I found my way. As I began that journey, about 10 or 15 years ago, my brother told me, never fall in love with what you do. This was timely advice as I began to explore different ways to express my creativity. I took up stand-up comedy at 30, amateur that is, back and forth a couple times since. But at that point, life happened. Marriage, suburbs, yellow dog, van, Rachel's friend's haircut, and a toddler in the suburbs. And she's named Abby, and I love her dearly. Briefly, I painted art furniture, brightly colored and bold with patterns, some of which I donated to children going into foster care who had maybe luck if they had anything to call their own. Now that work I was in love with. But divorce came and the garage space for furniture went, and the need to pivot how I would express myself transferred over to canvas and apparel. And in 2018, alongside my passion for painting just about anything, the universe came calling and said, "Lucinda, tell your story of overcoming on paper." And so I listened, because I have found that when the universe calls, it is a good idea to listen, even if the work is hard. I spent 6 years, 3 writing coaches, a couple grand, and a few tears. And I had to close the drawer on the 200 pages of what was almost completed. I could not do the edits to finish, because I had not healed from all the parts of my own story. Self-care was to stop and pivot again. After taking some time to grieve what I thought was meant for me, I've been called on by the universe again. This time to finish my children's story inspired by a painting about my one-eyed cat Atlas, who goes down my bathroom sink and in that process transforms into a one-eyed catfish, spit out a hole into the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, where he has a journey. On this journey, he makes friends and he finds faith and friendship, and learns about anxiety and loneliness and family. And the most important thing is the fact that we are all different, because that's how we are made, and that different is good. So, today, the irony is not lost on me that the children's story, which may become a series or more, is in the same premise as what my father was part of in the 1960s with Up With People, about uniting people and connection and compassion and love. So, stay tuned, because my friends and cohorts here at the Emerald Coast Storytellers are holding me accountable to my word. I'm terrified, and I'm going to do it anyway, and by the end of next month, it's my intention to have 1 self-published copy. So, with that, I will move on. I'm going to have to get my glasses, or we can't do anymore. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. Well, I get to introduce this new reader. I'm going to see if I can get her name right. Christy Holditch. Okay, I think I got it. Anyway, she is a published writer, an aspiring novelist, residing in Grayton Beach with her family. Her work has been featured in publications such as Huffington Post, Beach Happy Magazine, Emerald Coast Magazine, and more. Christy's professional journey took her into the realm of marketing, which she balances alongside her true passion project, her debut novel, and perpetual work in progress, Just Passing Through. She is the co-founder of Emerald Coast Storytellers, so I invite you to welcome Christy to the stage.
So you guys might be wondering about my +1/prop here. This is August. It's July. Well, this is August, born in May, and he is, not just here for moral support, he is actually the main character of the story I'm about to tell. So it only seemed fitting to rock him up here. So yes, August, born in May. So it was a Thursday morning, May 15th, very, very early morning. My contractions started around 3 a.m. and I turned to my husband. I was like, okay, they're not like the keeled over, like this is the worst pain of my life contractions yet. But I was like, something's happening. Let's just go get it checked out. So we head to the hospital. Shout out to my wonderful mother-in-law, Cindy, for being on call at 3 in the morning to hang with our now 2-year-old daughter. So we get to the hospital and check in. We're like, one baby, please, maybe. And we get in the exam room to Harrison's favorite chair, the waiting room chair. That's just the worst chair in the world. And I'm on just this like stretcher for 2 hours. And a couple hours later, they come in and they're like, all right, so no cervical changes. Doctor says you guys, with you guys living so close, like 20, 25 minutes, we will, he's comfortable with you guys going home and waiting it out from home. So what one does when they're told to wait out early labor, we napped, sort of. Kind of napping through contractions is its own beast. But then I took a very long, luxurious bubble bath because I knew I was going to have a few weeks where I couldn't take one. So now it's about 9 o'clock and I make it to the bed and I am face down. These contractions are definitely the ones that, they warn you about. Definitely the worst pain of my life. And my husband Harrison hears the sheer pain from the other room and comes in and I'm like, I know my water hasn't broken yet, but it's like we need to go. Like something's happening. And so he's like, all right, I'm gonna go pack the car. And he comes back in, helps me off the bed after throwing just a dress that was hanging on the back of the door, which actually was a rental. So I had to buy it. You'll see why in a sec. But as he's helping me off the bed, my water breaks. And so we make it a few steps to the couch and I am just beside myself in pain and I'm like, go on without me. I can't, I'm not gonna make it. And so thankfully we had a break between contractions and I'm literally holding my bath towel underneath my dress and I'm walking out and there's like construction people across the street and I'm just like, whatever, I'm in too much pain, I don't know what's happening. And we pull onto 30A, Harrison texts his mom, it's go time. Hope we make it. Spoiler alert, we did not. We start driving, and at one point I find these like binaural beats for pain relief that did not work, by the way. One can hope. But thankfully Harrison had the wherewithal to call my Aunt Margie out in California. She's been a labor and delivery nurse since before I was born. So she's delivered a lot more babies than I have. And, she answers the phone. She's like, hi, sweetie, can I call you, in 20 minutes? And we're just like, no, like the baby's coming, we need you. And so she's like, okay. So she just gets into nurse mode and she's coaching me through the breath work and the contractions. And I am just like eyes squeezed shut and just in so much pain. So every stoplight, it just gets worse and worse. Thankfully, there is one stoplight. Mr. Fast and Furious ran. It was a freshly red light, Cindy, I promise. But I remember turning to him and being like, thank you. And then he's like, okay, brace yourself, this is the long one. So it's 393, as we all know, it's like the worst light ever. And yeah, still coaching me through. And as we're going through the light, I'm like, he's coming. Like, I feel ahead. Can I push? I think I need to push. I'm just trying to listen to my body at this point. And Harrison looks over and he's like, yep, I see the head. So my Aunt Margie is like, okay, Harrison, pull over. I'm gonna, coach you through this. And as we're pulling into the Sefco gas station parking lot, I pulled out this little number and I don't think Harrison even had the car in park. But then my Aunt Margie was like, okay, how close are you to the hospital? And we're like, maybe 5-7 minutes. And so we make it there, and we're in the parking lot. Harrison races in. Next thing I know, there's a parade of nurses and the doctor that runs out and checking on me, checking on the baby. I forgot to mention my aunt, right when he came out, she gave us this checklist. She's like, all right, what color is he? We're like really freaking purple. And she's like, okay, turn the heater on. Oh, hey. He knows we're talking about him. Yeah, turn on the heater, pat his back, do all these things. And so by the time we made it to the hospital, we knew, like, okay, everything was good, thankfully. But the nurses come out, check on me, check on the baby, and then the doctor turns to Harrison and is like, do you want to cut the cord in the parking lot? And so he did. And yeah, so as for defining moments, obviously it wasn't me becoming a mother. It was me becoming a mother, for a second time, but it was really a gift that he gave me because, I mean, first birth, I was like, 1 epidural, please, and I was the #1 fan, and this one, I never thought in a million years I could do unmedicated, but I did, and it was in the car, and we're gonna gift it to him on his 16th birthday, and and that's that. So thanks for being here, and happy birthday.
You have other options, you know. You could show that to the girl you don't want him to have a second date with, or, you know, anyway, wasn't that a cute prop? I think it was real. All righty. Oh, this woman, I love her. Lindsay Tobias is a self-taught painter and muralist based in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. Her work, aside from stunning, is a reflection of her inner world, concept-driven and deeply expressive, using oil paint the way a writer might use language to communicate complex ideas, emotions, and perspectives. Rather than simply evoke feeling, Lindsay strives to create art that challenges viewers to think more deeply, question assumptions, and discover parts of themselves through someone else's lens. Her work explores themes of philosophy, meaning, religion, and sensuality, inviting connection and contemplation with every brushstroke. Come up, you're gorgeous.
Thanks. Thank you so much. This first poem is for anyone who has ever felt like they were a bit much, and I feel like even just being in this room here, like most of the people who come up today will have been told that at one point in their lives, but like how amazing that you're not super boring. But beyond that, it takes a lot of vulnerability to make good art, and even more than that, to make bad art. So this poem is for those that feel. Okay, and also, if I am unable to remember to start just booing me from everywhere. Okay. Maybe you feel too much. It's very possible that God blew your skin too thin, like glass in a furnace where it almost cracked, making you see through, or making you see too clearly. It's very possible you were built like a hospital, your head filled with beds for those who are hurt, your hands like shovels, every person like dirt. You see as a garden, daisies and daffodils crammed in their yard, and if you water them with words or with love or whatever they lack, maybe they'll bloom and life will come back. And maybe you're in good company with the tortured types who write symphonies and philosophy, who notice the colors of a wing or the yawn of a morning or the bones of a thing like it's special, who find bits of God and the devil in everyone and everything, like the same colors in lily pads and grocery bags, the music of quiet and the music of song, finding sacred the seconds where we all get along. And maybe you don't have to choose between being happy or sad, as if more than one at a time is inherently bad. Maybe you can feel both and far more, and maybe this peace can end your civil war, the one in your chest where both sides are losing. Maybe you're better off with your musing, because maybe it's actually strange to be so untouched by the constellations in and outside of us, the wars and dissension, how we must hold the tension of bloodshed and travel plans in the same set of calloused hands, because every day is someone's best and someone's last. And maybe we need each other to be more like baskets, more like caskets, to hold the breathing and broken things we hide. So maybe they're right about your glass skin. Be a little less pensive and a little more light. Or maybe this is just what happens when you won't close your eyes. There's one more, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, this next poem is about one of my friend's mothers who actually was recently admitted to a mental institution, which sounded like bad news until we understood how amazing this mental institution was. And it seemed so odd to me how sick you had to be in order to live like we were supposed to. And that's a little bit about what this poem is about. There's a psych ward in Tennessee where they teach that when you give the land seeds, the grass becomes green, that what you water grows and you reap what you sow, and they teach you to work with your hands with pottery and paint. And sometimes you even love what you make, because it's harder to hate when you love what you do. And at some point, being proud of your choices means being proud of you, and you get to feel a little like God on day 6 to make something exist. Here's where everybody boos. Okay, so you get to feel a little like God on day 6 to make something exist. And they teach that if you sit with sharp thoughts long enough, they'll turn soft. And with no secrets left in their bodies, they breathe. Inhale, exhale. And they give names to their grief. And they birdwatch and learn that few animals but us can survive all alone. So they eat dinners together and aren't allowed on their phones, where they talk about meaning and purpose, because meds don't matter if we believe life is worthless. And they aren't allowed to ask, what is it you do? So they're forced to find out, who really are you? And they get hopelessly honest, because if you're here, you've lost it, and I have too, and there's so much to find when we have nothing to lose. So in Tennessee, there's a place you go when your mind is no good that seems to work like the world should. To that, I'm healthy enough to never go, to stay inside in the endless scroll, to make more money until it makes me whole, to talk about the weather every time we're together until isolation feels better, to distract myself with memes and sex because nothing's better than what comes next. It's starting to feel like someone lied. It's starting to feel kind of like the real asylum is the one I'm in.
One more time for Lindsay. And while you're up, for Christy, too. Go ahead. Thank you. Ray Klein is the author of the short story collection, The Indefinite State of Imaginary Morals, Patasola Press, New York. Her debut novel is forthcoming from 713 Books in spring 2026. Her stories, essays, and poetry have appeared in print and online at the Paris Review, the Missouri Review, McSweeney's, Diagram, North American Review, Gargoyle, and more. Her fiction and creative nonfiction have won prizes, scholarships, and fellowships from Johns Hopkins, American University, Aspen Writers Foundation, and North American Review. She earned an MA in writing at Hopkins and received her MFA in fiction and creative nonfiction from American University, where she was the recipient of the Starr and Sartwell scholarships. We bring you Ray.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Christy and Allie, especially for this amazing community of writers you put together here, because it's truly special. I'm going to read 2 very short pieces to you this evening. I'm going to start with a flash fiction from my short story collection. It's titled Intolerable Impositions. She gnawed her arm off in the morning before he woke. There was no way around it. Her forearm lay trapped beneath his thick neck, stubbled, except for one irritated spot of skin below the hairline where an infected pore rounded, tipped with pus. She had seen it the night before, the infection. She saw it in the dim bar light pulsating, but the blemish did not matter after 2 glasses of Cabernet. And besides, he presented so well from the front, pressed, suited, hip but not too metro tie, square jaw, and straight white teeth. His hair was thinning and consequential. After a tolerable sexing, top, bottom, behind, sideways, over the edge of the bed, he turned his back and asked if she would find the ingrown hair on his neck because it hurt him, and he had no one to do it now that his mother had passed away 3 months ago. In the dark silence of their after-sex, he explained how his mother cleaned the area with hydrogen peroxide, then extracted the infection, fishing inside with tweezers and a needle to find the offending hair. He spoke with soft words. She could always find it so quickly. Now I have no one. Would you mind? The tweezers and the peroxide are in the bathroom cabinet. It was a test, though he did not admit it. She had known other men like him, men who searched for a dedicated intimate, a partner, and squeamish. It was their way of telling the keepers from the one-nighters. She begged off the immediate task. I'll do it in the morning, she said, smiling, as if the task did not disgust her. She woke before him. The bulbous infection lay millimeters from her nose, an inch from her forearm. It would touch her if he rolled backward toward her. As long as he lay motionless, she was safe. Pulling her arm in small increments, she worked it from beneath his neck, but each time her forearm moved, he moved, so he inched himself backward, forming into her an intolerable spooning. She had not consented to affections. There was no contract between them for this cuddling, nor was there provision for lovemaking, only sex implied. And she cringed at the familiarity of his back and buttocks and legs where they contacted her skin. It may have been different if he faced her. He was much prettier from the front. So she rolled to her back, letting only her side and arm touch him now. She considered pulling the arm outright, facing his wakening before leaving a fake phone number. She considered pushing on his right shoulder so to roll him onto his belly, which may have released the arm, but still, it was risky and would likely wake him that way too. After endless scenarios imagined, pulling and pushing and facing the man she now loathed for no other reason than the cyst upon his neck, she considered loving him. She could simply stay and wake by his side, share eggs and coffee in the Washington Post before returning to bed. But the venture brought the inevitable task of extracting the hair and the pus, and she found herself glaring at the thick, heavy neck with hatred. Only one thing to do. It took her the better part of an hour to gnaw through the bone. The flesh was easy, soft, pliable, seasoned with skin creams and the experience of her near 30 years. The blood, however, threatened to give her away. It pooled on the mattress beneath them, and he nearly woke from the wet. As she snuck out of the bedroom, she turned to watch the sleeping man who now clutched her forearm. He pulled it to his chest and hugged it like a child's teddy bear. She remembered mornings when she too clutched forearms to her chest. It wasn't so bad. At least they left her something before leaving. She tied off the left sleeve of her coat, moved out of the apartment and into the hallway, missing the forearm already, but resolved to leaving it. Waking him and his cyst would certainly turn into the day, the week, a year. And before long, she might consider him more than a fancy. He would fill her life with a series of cystic burdens. He would seize her entirely. A single forearm was well worth the escape. So one more very short, it's actually a very, very short first chapter of my novel that is coming out in the spring from 713 Books. And this is my first time reading it in public. So thank you so much for being my first audience for it. Well, other than my husband, he's been very patient with me. God had taken all the warmth of the earth and the water and kept it for himself. The kind of icy cold that narrowed the blood vessels and turned the skin blue. Calm at least, smooth, rippled, lapping at the river's edge where the cottonwoods and poplars grew, the yellow leaves and long dark trunks twisting over the bank. There were no houses in sight, just a girl of 13 rubbing the cold water onto her naked arms and legs and belly and splashing her face with it. She dunked down below the surface to wet her long hair that would be a pail if not for dirt. She rose up a little and watched the ripples and currents in the river, studying for breaks in the water. They'll take a toe off. It was a figment he told when she was little. They'll take a toe off. And it stuck with her. He said the water was full of river hippos and smiled each time he said it, his way of keeping her vigilant in the currents, a way to make her laugh, perhaps. He liked the sound of nervous laughter in her mouth, said it made the laughter sweeter somehow. She lay back into the water and let the current take her into the middle where an empty canoe had rounded the bend. It was green and faded and peeling, the gunwales broken. She rose up and watched it as it drifted toward her. With one hand she treaded and the other tried to rub blood to the surfaces of her arms and legs, but it was impossible in the deep. Maybe the canoe had a blanket, maybe some food. She took hold of the side and pulled herself up and over the edge where the splintered wood cut into her arms and chest. The sun was warm on her back, and she took a deep breath into her belly. Let it sit there a moment. Inside were 2 oars and a dirty rope slick with muck. The rope was worn in sections, but worthy. She had hoped for a cooler or a small bag with sandwiches and chips and maybe a soda. But the rope was something more than yesterday. She sank down into the water again and put a hand on the back end of the canoe and pushed it slowly toward shore, correcting the angle every few feet so that it floated gently into a clutch of cottonwoods and brush not too far from camp. 3 of the trees had come loose from the bank and twisted low over the water, the leaves sparse. It would be better if they were thicker, but it would have to do. She slipped the canoe beneath the branches and wiggled it into the brush, then tied the rope to one end of the canoe with 3 bow knots. Then she wrapped the other end around the base, the closest trunk, and tied 3 more. He wouldn't see it unless he looked for it. She lay back in the water again and breathed in the fall air, the soft round of her belly and breasts rising up from the surface. They had departed from her already. She could feel it. They had grown into some other space and left the rest of her to dangle deep inside herself somewhere she could not reach. She rubbed a hand over the belly again, then pushed the hand deep between her legs where it grew now, this departure. She stretched her fingers long and reached inside, desperate for a finger or a toe. If she could push far enough, she might break through and catch some piece of it, pull it free. Mama called it the power of creation once when they walked on the street. They had passed a mother of 2. She was young and pregnant with a 3rd, trying to keep her 2 little boys on the sidewalk. Their clothes were dirty, holes in the shoes. She had an exhaustion on her face, like she'd crawled somewhere inside herself too, and forgotten the way back. Mama nodded at her and said, "Nothing like it." And when the light turned red, the mother waddled across the street, clawing and clasping at her boys, wanting to run. A pickup sat waiting at the light and revved its engine as she passed, and she dropped the boy's hands and turned and stared at the driver with a fear or daring, or maybe it was a kind of hope. Her boys were already across the road and watching their mother from the sidewalk, and the light turned green, but she just stood there, hands at her side, staring at that pickup truck and its driver. She might have stood there all day. She might have let him run her right over in the middle of that road. Another man stepped off the sidewalk and took her hand, and he walked her to her boys, still watching their mother and waiting. Mama nodded at the mother again and said, "There it is, power of creation." She was right enough. Creation was powerful, even if you didn't want it, even if you wished it dead. A boat engine whirred somewhere upriver, then whistled from the bank. It was long and sharp, and she waited for the second whistle and the third. They always came in threes. The third meant it was time. She would not wait for the fourth. The shallows were difficult with the roots in the rocks, cooler beneath the tree canopies, and she shivered as she walked out of the river and onto the large flat rock. A towel hung from a nail he pounded into one of the trunks, and she wrapped it around her chest and waist and pushed back the blue and white quilt on the rope, the one that the mold spots that Mama hung. He sat with his back to her now in his favorite lawn chair from the Ollie's Good Stuff Cheap. He'd built a fire that rose up to his knees. In his hand was Joe pie, and he threw it onto the flames, and for a moment the air smelled of vanilla. "Where'd you go?" he said. "Nowhere." She stood behind him now and watched as he turned the chair and placed it so he could see her. He had the wool blanket open in his lap. "Warmed it for you," he said. "Sit, I'll dry your hair." He shifted the chair again so he faced the fire, and he waited for her to walk around and settle onto the ground between his knees. The fire was warm on her face, a gracious comfort. He wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. It was itchy and smelled of wood smoke. "Give me your towel," he said. She worked the towel from her body and fished it out through the wool, then pulled the blanket tightly around her. "Possum," he said, and rubbed the towel hard against her scalp the way he'd done since she was little, like he meant to polish the hair right off. "We're going to start a chapel," he said. His voice was hopeful, and she pulled in a little breath and held it in her chest. He hadn't been that hopeful since the bank man took the house. "Your daddy's a bona fide prophet now," he said. "I got to have a place for my followers. A miracle is coming. You believe it, don't you, Possum?" "Yes, Daddy, I believe it." She didn't say that a prophet saw futures, that all he'd done was dunk an old woman in a shit-filled river and con her out of a few dollars and some canned peaches. "Good girl," he said, and scrubbed at her head as he spoke about the chapel, how he'd speak with his people, not at them, a communal redemption. They had spent many mornings like this by the fire, Daddy rubbing at her head and talking of Jesus, but this morning was different. There was a slow rabid in his voice, turned in on itself, the sound of a man who found a purpose no one else could quite see in him. He would be the redemption they needed. When he dried her hair to his liking, he started the brushing. She jumped at the first scrape of bristles and made a noise in the back of her throat. "Shh," he said. "Hush." He finished smoothing the hair, and she closed her eyes, and when his breath spread out on the back of her neck, it was warm and wet, and she felt his lips close to her skin, dewing the little hairs. "I haven't had my monthly," she said. He hovered a moment, his lips and breath on her neck, and then he sat back in his chair, his knees loosened from her shoulders. "How long has it been?" he said. 3 weeks, maybe more. No, she doesn't know. We made a promise. I know. We asked for God's forgiveness. I know, Daddy. He pulled his chair back and stood behind her. "You trust me to fix it, don't you?" "Yes, Daddy." The flames danced and sputtered on her face. "Get dressed," he said. "We need more wood and your mama will be up soon." He picked up his chair and started toward camp, then paused and without turning said, "There are worse places than where we are now, Clementine. You know that, right?" "Yes, Daddy," she said. "I know. Thank you."
Ray Klein. I'm sorry, you guys, I was put here to reach top shelves and I'm wearing wedges, so I gotta do this or I'm gonna be like. Okay, Allie Diamond. I think she's read once before. She is a creative entrepreneur, published journalist, and aspiring novelist. After a successful acquisition of her Wisconsin-based startup, Allie took the opportunity to finally move down to the sandy white beaches of 30A. She is the co-founder of the Emerald Coast Storytellers and hopes to soon publish her first horror novel. Bring her up here, Allie.
Hi, guys. How are we feeling? What do you think so far? I can only speak from experience, but it's scary getting up here, so let's give a quick round of applause for everybody that's come up here already and is gonna at some point. So I always joke that Christy and I have been writing together for a while now. I mean, we've been doing this for 3 years, but we started writing a little bit before that as well. And I always joke that I write these like scary stories, horror. I write horror stories. And Christy writes these beautiful, like, kind of introspective, perspectives of like family and like relationships. And like, she literally talked about her family tonight. And then I get up here and I'm like, what if everybody died? Have we considered that? But thankfully, my story is not about that tonight. It's an excerpt of a longer piece that I'm working on. It's not happy, don't worry. There's not a happy ending, but it is, I don't know, I guess you guys will tell me how it is. But it's a short story, so I promise. Anyway, it would be almost 3 years before I'd hear from her again. I was in algebra class. I was in the back of the room with my friends Jessie and Patricia sitting 2 rows in front of me. Jessie was hunched over, her quick fingers folding a piece of paper over and over with a military precision. She gave it one final pass, tracing the edges as if to ensure that they were sufficiently creased, before readying to pass it to the girl behind her, who would then pass it to me. I could see Patricia in the corner of my eye, her shoulders shaking with silent laughter as she waited for my reaction. But its journey was thwarted by a brassy voice calling my name over the intercom. Miss Phillips came back to collect me, and as eagle-eyed as she was brilliant at teaching algebra, tugged the little piece of paper from Jessie's fingers and shooed me out the door and toward the front office. My name had been called because there was someone on the phone for me. For me, I'd said, my heart jumping into my throat. Normally, it was just my father that called me, and those brief auditory visits were usually reserved for my birthday and the anniversary of my mother's death, neither of which was today. Carefully, I picked up the heavy phone, its cord wrapping around my wrist. "Hello," I had said softly, as my breath hitched in anticipation. I could hear slight breathing on the other end, but nothing. "Hello," I said again. "Hey, sis." My heart stopped. "Eliana," I gripped the phone tightly. "Are you okay? Is Dad?" "Dad's fine. Everything's okay. I'm okay," she said quietly. I took a moment to collect myself, white starbursts flashing behind my eyes as I pressed against them with the heel of my hand. "Eliana, it's been too long," she said quietly, interrupting me. I felt a flash of annoyance, and just like that, I was 10 again, watching as she directed me in the games that she decided she wanted to play. I struggled to hold back the red as it threatened to rise. Do you need something? Why are you calling? The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but it had been 3 years. I waited a moment, but she didn't answer. I could hear her breathing on the other end, her exhales hitching slightly at the end. The silence between us was soft and heavy, like a held breath, the kind only two people who'd memorized each other's pauses could endure. I saw a ladybug, she said finally, breaking the silence. It landed on my arm today, and well, I thought of you. A ladybug, I deadpanned, breath exhaling in a rush. There's ladybugs everywhere, that's why you're calling? She chuckled softly, her breath hitching again. Yeah, but it was a big one, and it reminded me of you. Oh, a fat ladybug. I should hang up the phone. A bubble of warmth floated up through my chest as I listened to my sister chuckle. The school counselor poked her head out from the side office, her dyed red hair perched haphazardly over a pale, too thin face. She narrowed her eyes at me as if to say, wrap up the call and get back to class. But before I could, Eliana interjected. Do you suppose Timmy ever got a dog? I paused, confusion lacing my thoughts. My mind raced as I tried to remember if our dad had ever said anything. I don't think, why? Did something happen? A moment went by, and then another. It stretched between us, hovering like a feather caught in an updraft. And the tip of my ring finger turned purple as I twisted the phone's plastic cord around it. Finally, she exhaled. No reason. She was quiet for a moment longer. But hey, sis, happy almost birthday. My chest hitched, and without thinking, I gripped the phone tighter, pushing it deeper into my ear, as if I could scoop up those words and wear them as a delicate bracelet around my wrist. You too, sis, happy almost birthday. It became a running joke of ours, the ladybugs and how they seemed to follow Eliana around. Before hanging up, she told me that she'd called the Saturday after. She didn't. She called 2 weeks later in the middle of the day again, sheepishly apologizing with flimsy excuses. My chest hurting, I quickly accepted them and used them to plug the cracks in the shell around my heart. At least she was calling. Never mind that we never talked about Dad, never about the years we slipped by, or how she wouldn't visit and never invited me to see her, or how sometimes I felt like she was half there, with the other half still standing in the window next to the third-floor walkout, watching me as I was dragged from the house and into the reformatory school's white van. I'd asked Dad about her once when he called last year on my 17th birthday. Although Eliana and I had struck up an uneasy truce, it was hard for her to stay consistent with calling. Frustrated, I asked Dad about her after I hadn't heard from her in almost a month. He'd also called to discuss college plans with me, which I was eagerly looking forward to, unless my Chem 101 final exam had other plans for me. Dad, I said after he'd gone quiet for a long moment. He often did this, peppering his speeches with long, quiet pauses. It was like talking to a fading ghost. Is she okay? I guess so, kid, he'd said softly. You know how she is. She's always been distant. If it makes you feel better, I haven't heard from her either, not since I gave her the house. Gave her the house, I'd said, flabbergasted. As I stood there, the heavy phone pressing into my hand, my too tight dress shoes pinching my feet, I could see him in my mind's eye as he tried to explain what he'd done. His shoulders dipping, his voice growing quieter, as if my words had the potential to be sharpened barbs, and he was preemptively ducking to avoid them. He'd packed up and left, apparently, moved to a small apartment in the city. I knew she was still living at home. She told me that once during one of her first phone calls. She'd been helping him with the upkeep and taking college courses from home. I nodded along, although he couldn't see me, but my heart squeezed. I could picture her now, standing in the window next to the third-floor walkout, with one hand on her heart and the other on the window. What do you mean, she got the house? Patricia said quietly, glancing quickly at Jessie. I shrugged, chewing thickly. I dashed to join them for lunch, and all I had brought to eat was a peanut butter and honey sandwich from the local Pop's Country Store. We were sitting in the courtyard near the library where I'd unfortunately been spending the majority of my weekend. I mean, exactly that. My dad said he gave her the house. And you're not mad? Patricia asked, her eyes fixed on me. I took my time answering, chewing a bite of the sandwich as I waited for the old familiar anger to rise. But nothing came, just a dull hollowness, like the house itself was fading from my memory, its colors leaching away until all that remained was a silhouette of a place I no longer recognized. I shrugged. Thought I would be. But after 6 years at Lady Mary's, if I had to call anywhere home, I trailed off, glancing at the high arched windows of the cafeteria and the scuffed floors we'd marched across for half a decade. Probably be this place. Jessie snorted from across the table, her smirk sharp enough to cut glass. I wouldn't want that house anyway. The table rattled as Patricia kicked her under it. I froze. Wait, what do you mean? Patricia's eyes darted between me and Jessie, her fingers knotting around her napkin. What she means is, she grimaced, waving a hand like she could shoo the words into the air between us. No, I said slowly, I don't. Jessie and Patricia exchanged a glance before Jessie leaned in, looking guilty. You've really never heard the stories? What stories? My voice came out a little too loud. A couple girls at the next table turned to stare. Patricia bit her lip. It's just rumors. People from town say your house is built on tribal ground, that it's, haunted, Jessie supplies unhelpfully. I barked out a laugh so harsh it echoed off the cafeteria walls. You're joking. You've never heard this? Jessie pressed, stabbing a fork into her salad. Not even from your sister? No, I snapped, because it's bullshit. Patricia leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. And you've never experienced anything there? Except my mother dying, I thought. Except the way Dad's eyes turned hollow, like her ghost had clawed its way inside him and never left. Except the darkness that clung to every room, thick as the dust on the piano no one played anymore. I forced a smile. Nope. Except that wasn't true. The thought slithered in before I could stop it, and with it came the memory, thick and syrupy, like something dredged from the bottom of a dark pond. Eliana perched on the edge of the third-floor walkout, and in her hand that crumpled scrap of paper, its edges fluttering like a trapped moth. I hadn't thought about it in years, hadn't let myself, but now here it was, pressing against the back of my teeth, bitter as a lie. I shoved the memory down, swallowing hard. Maybe I'll ask Eliana about it next weekend after graduation, I said lightly, gathering my trash. But I can guarantee the only ghost in that house is the ghost of Dad's expectations after I bombed Chem 101. They laughed, brittle but obliging, as the bell rang. But as we stood, I couldn't shake the image. Eliana alone in that cavernous house, pacing its empty walls. Maybe Mom wasn't the only ghost in there after all. Thank you. Okay, guys, and with that happy story, we're going to be doing intermission. But be sure to stick around because we're going to be doing more giveaways after intermission. So everybody take the next 10, 15 minutes, grab some food, grab some drinks, go to the bathroom, and then I'll see you back here. Thank you. Hey, guys. So we are going to do, you guys can still get drinks, go to the bathroom, get some food. We're actually going to do a quick trivia giveaway at this point before we launch back into all of the stories. So we have a few published works from some of our past storytellers. So do we want to do which one up first? Which one do we want to do up first? I don't know. Okay. All right, so the first book we're going to give away is called Create and Receive, Make and Believe, and it's a work of poetry from Trisha, who is actually going to be up next. She's been a featured storyteller, and she is incredible. You're about to see her in action. But the trivia question that we're going to do, because for the life of us, we cannot think of any actual good trivia questions, is You guys have to guess Christy's sign. Okay, all right. I'm seeing some hands. You were up first. No, wrong. Okay, what is it? No, she does give Aquarius vibes, I will say that. She does. It is, but no. All right. Yes, she is. Yeah, snaps. She is Pisces out there and through. I'm sure she has Aquarius somewhere in her chart. Okay, you go.
And to, well, yin and yang, am I giving something away? What is Allie's sign?
No.
Oh, no.
How dare you?
Oh, who was it? Oh, I forgot to do. Who was that? Woohoo! Oh, does she? Perfect. That decides that. Oh, okay. True or false? You win! Did Allie start crying at said kitchen table over wine when we came up with the idea for Emerald Storytellers? Woohoo! That concludes our intermission giveaway.
Alrighty, now we have a first for Emerald Coast Storytellers. It is a group skit. In honor of this month's venue, a group of Emerald Coast Storyteller regulars will be performing an original skit written by Trisha Veldman. The story will be brought to life by me, Ann Lewis, and Jay Lyles. Please bear in mind that none of us are trained actors and have put this together as a fun experiment. I just want to add one thing. We had this conversation, the four of us, after one of our open mics 2 months ago, and in like 20 minutes at home, I'm sure of it, she whips out this little number, which I'm like, God, I can't find my keys, and I've been looking for 2 months. I digress. So, in other words, sit back, relax, and enjoy a story about how one defining moment changed a bride's life forever, for better or for worse. Presenting The Wedding Misfits.
The energy is aloft. Oh, here! Penelope? You're right here. Oh, I absolutely love weddings, don't you?
Yeah, they're great.
So how do y'all know the bride and groom?
Carolina's ex-boyfriend.
That's a juicy tidbit. Back to you. What about you?
Well, I actually gave Carolina a psychic reading.
Oh my God, you're excited. I've heard so much about you, completely changed your.
So I realized I actually feel a little weird being here. It's the only down here I've met.
Well, that's strange.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I'm her manicurist, of course. I remember when I first met. We did a simple lilac polish with sparkle on the root finger. I truly speech.
You're psychic.
Maybe.
Are you kidding me? How the hell did I end up at this table?
You mean table 18 with all the signals who I doubt must be so relaxed?
Yes.
You have a date?
No.
How so?
Come on, that's no attitude for a wedding. How do you know the bride and groom?
I'm the groom's aunt, for God's sake. I changed his diaper Once. You get one divorce and you're the black sheep of the family. And you're seated at the misfit table at your only nephew's wedding.
So now, Westy West, get us.
We dated, we broke up, now she's married a guy with a Pokemon tattoo.
It happens. Yes. My first ex-husband is over there with his wife. You see that man in the gaudy green tie? That's him. You see that woman sitting next to him in the gaudy green dress? That's her.
Dude, Frank, Jeff's dad's brother. He's been married to that woman for like 20 years.
I know. He and I were only married for free. But I bet he still thinks of,
So technically you're the groom's ex-aunt. Pretty sweet. We got an invitation.
Clearly, they were pretty liberal with the invitations. Who invites their manicurist to a wedding?
Hey, I received that. I know more about Carolina Jupp than anybody at this table. She's been coming to see me every week they got this every day.
Really? So what do you think about them together? You think they're like compatible?
Oh God, yes. They're amazing. 2 keys, etc. But you know that. You're the whole reason they are together.
And yeah, about that whole psychic thing.
Do you actually call yourself a psychic? Because people fall for anything these days.
I don't actually. It's a funny story, really.
Are you a fraud?
Kind of. But it was an accident. I don't know what to do. I feel so guilty.
Tell us what happened.
We should see this comment.
What did you do?
Well, I was just home watching cats on TikTok, and this girl comes to my door, and she's like, Penelope. And I'm like, no, that's not really my name. And she's like, you're not Penelope, the psychic? And I said, absolutely not. And then she goes, aha. Amanda told me you would deny it because it's my first time. But don't worry, I've got your $300.
$300? Are you kidding me?
Right. And and it was due the next day, so I invited her in.
Oh, this is good.
Don't you hush. What happened to Lola?
Well, so then I asked her, I said, what did Amanda tell you this would work? And she just made it too easy for me, She was like, okay, so I'm going to tell you about my boyfriend, and you'll tell me if you think we're soulmates, based on your intuition and all that.
Wait, people still believe in soulmates?
I mean, yes. But anyway, so she started telling me about this guy, Jeff. And she seemed terribly unhappy. She started to cry when she was talking about him, and to be honest, he just sounded awful.
So logically, you said, marry him.
No, I didn't mean to. I asked her, I said, what do you want? And she's like, I just want him to be the one, I'm so tired of modern dating. I'm ready to settle. I'm past my prime. I'm already 26.
So you told her to settle.
No, I didn't. I just asked her. I just told her, that little girl floor. And sometimes we don't understand why things happen the way they do. Yada yada. Nothing significant. And then she left all happy. And the next thing you know, I got a wedding invitation in the mail.
It's interesting you say this, because I've had my doubts stopping.
Wait a minute. You just said they were great together.
Listen, I do my gossip. But now that we are talking about it, how long do you think they'll last? 2, 3 months?
This is what women actually do.
Hey, Carolina was so desperate to get off the market. Why did she break up with you?
I broke up with her. Thank you very much. That was like 10 years ago.
You were still invited to the wedding?
Yeah, I still play soccer with her brothers, and we're both over it.
So why are you so good?
Have you seen the surf cam? I RSVP for this thing before the store rolled in. I tried to back out, but I get this whole earful about a $50 salmon plate. So I'm like, here I am.
even worse. Carolina's ruining her life, and you're missing good surf all because of me.
Listen, Heidi, sure as the 30s, I mean, we can help.
No! We have to do something. We can't let two people who are fake for each other get married.
Okay, wait a minute. It's not like you stalked the wedding. You do realize we're at the reception. They've walked down the aisle, they've said the vows. It's done.
We have to do something. What if they're making a terrible mistake?
Don't even know that was a risk they chose to take.
I mean, none of us would be here if you had to have been the fake.
This is all my fault. People's lives are at stake.
Oh, please, don't be dramatic. No one's gonna die.
They could have a loveless marriage, and I could be the reason why.
It happens. They'll be fine.
Oh, it was an accident. Please don't hide.
I shouldn't have lied. I just wish he hadn't cried.
All right. Calm down, calm down. You gave some advice. Tried to be nice. Looks like she took it without thinking twice, which is a surprise for the decision this size. But that was her call, no, not yours at all. By the way, it's out of your hands. She's a doll who understands what it means to say I do. You can't put this on you.
It was one more chat.
She seemed like a brat.
Oh, I don't think that. She asked for help, and I pointed her in the wrong direction.
You didn't know any better.
She can use her own discretion.
Lying to offer help because she asked. It's really quite funny that you gave her money to a stranger whose real name we don't even know.
This is proving to be one heck of a show.
It flew so low.
Oh, sweetheart, you didn't even know.
I think I can fix it. I'm gonna tell her right now.
No.
Let's not be rash.
This stays important to us.
She's got her whole life to regret it.
It doesn't even affect you. Let's just go dance and forget it.
How can I dance when I potentially ruined someone's life?
It was 100% her decision to become David's wife.
Maybe you're right.
Might as well dance while we're here.
Miss Red, you were crushing it down out there.
I know how to boogie. I saw you flirting with Mr. Purple Tie.
I have a thing for Greek noses.
You guys, you'll never guess what just happened. What? Carolina found me on the dance floor, and she thanked me.
Yeah, but it's because she thinks you helped her get married.
No, but do you know what she said? She said that right after we talked, she jumped that creek she'd been seeing, and met an amazing man the very next day at a donut shop. I'm just so confused. I could have sworn the guy she told me about was named Jeff.
That was creepy, Jess. She varies nice.
What do you mean?
Wait, you don't think that you actually encouraged her to marry creepy Jeff, do you?
Yes. Yeah, why didn't anyone tell me there were two Jeffs? That's exactly what I thought.
Gosh, no one would do that. Not even me. I could care less about Carolina.
So you're telling me she dumped that icky guy because of what I said?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that part. She did tell me that after she met you.
No, but this doesn't make sense. What about what you said about your doubts about them?
I also think about everybody. I'm just a cynical spirit, just a little bit more fun.
Not cynical. You love weddings.
Oh my God, yeah, I love free food and booze. Marriage, however, is an institution to which I do not subscribe.
Cheers to that.
I can't believe you thought she was very creepy Jeff. That guy's in jail now.
I can't believe none of you guys thought to clarify this before.
ready for primetime Emerald Coast players.
One more round. Go for it. Brian Mados, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Brian. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. He was born and raised in Whalebone Woods, a cul-de-sac neighborhood of East Hampton, New York. He studied creative writing and poetics at Naropa University. In 2014, he published a small collection titled In Vino Veritas. In 2021, after a decade of hiding, writing, and working labor in Colorado's Front Range, Brian moved to Santa Rosa Beach to hide less, write more, and work labor, with the added benefit of the coast. Here comes Brian.
Thanks, Lucinda. Can I raise this up? I'm probably just too sweaty. It's all good. Can you guys hear me? Am I like talking in the microphone enough? Can you hear me? No? Maybe not. Okay. This first piece I think it was like the first piece I read at Emerald Coast Storytellers. I don't think it was the first one. We were at Black Bear. It was like one of the first ones, I think. I wrote it. I have a lot of relatively like, I'm trying to think of how to say. I have a lot of poems about death. I've had a lot of friends die, and I was writing a lot of poems sort of about like grief, like really for myself, like true, like almost my journal. And like at the time that I wrote this, and I had just stumbled upon a story about, not a story, I stumbled upon like an article about the oldest piece of Finnish writing, the oldest piece of Finnish music that we have is a little piece of marble found in like the 1st century AD somewhere in Turkey, and it has an inscription on it, and the inscription reads, "I am a tombstone, an image. Sikelos placed me here as a long-lasting sign of deathless remembrance." And then underneath that is inscripted music, which is pretty amazing. And the song, and it has lyrics with it as well, and the song goes, "As long as you live, shine. Don't be sad at all. Life is short. Time asks for its due." Which, like, there's a lot of translations, and that's a terrible one. I don't know why I chose that one. But yeah, so I wrote this poem sort of as like, because a lot of what I write is, I try to write not about myself as much as I write almost exclusively about myself. I spend a lot of time like studying. People like to say like, I do my own research, and remind people what research is. That's like collecting, that's like taking data and like writing a thesis. I like study whatever I want to read about, and then like often it finds its way into my writing. And I found this article about this little piece of marble, and it kind of made me laugh, like, what a brat I am for like writing about people like dying shooting heroin. It's like, that's what happens. Like, life is fucking rad. So I kind of wrote this to both get myself back into the world of like studying and getting out of myself, and also just as like to celebrate life. And then I read it at Emerald Coast Storytellers, and I hadn't read it in public in like years. And it just seemed like it was a really good piece when I read it that night. So yeah, this is called a poem for the Sikelos epitaph. The time has come. Gather your stones. Gather them around you, and into the cavern of your heart weld their strength. And with them forge foundations. And from that rootsy place rise up tall towers to be the pillars from which you shine out the light of your existence. And fasten those pillars with the metal of your ethic, and adorn them in the colors of your mind, building around them cities designed by the ideals you use to navigate reality. And sheltered by those worlds we make, the spires of our hearts continue, immortal save from brutality or elemental force, like the flames of the inner earth, and may live on until the earth turns over into itself, swallowed again by the fiery gut of its own belly. And if in life your pillars attract the light of others, and are loved by others so as to allow the mingling of those lights, and in meeting those lights fracture into shatterings of colors as if shining through glass. Then when you die, those loved ones will gather and grieve in song and in story. And when they gather, let them gather in circles. And at their center, let them place a tombstone and mark it with carvings, with language, and with music, as a testament to the pursuit of your passions, as remembrance to the breath of your love, as a monument to the lighthouse, the shining sun that is made when life grows into the world, and is ended with each history that is lost into the ever-numbing chasm of death. Thank you. This next piece I wrote at one of the Emerald Coast Storytellers writing nights, and I actually just said to Allie, I don't really write during, when it's go write for 25 minutes. It's I'm a little bit I'm always writing for 25 minutes. What the fuck, what am I gonna do in this random 25 minutes? But I ended up just ripping this out, and I remember my partner was there randomly at the time. It was the one time she came to one of them. She kind of leaned in and was like, "You didn't just write that right now, right?" And I was kind of fuck you, first of all. But also, I was no, but she also said it because she was like, what? She knows me. I'm not a slow writer, but I'm not I don't usually just rip things out like this. So I think I've only read it once before, so I might I might hit a word and be I don't know how to pronounce this word, but, which is very likely. The word's entropic is right in the beginning. I'm oh, okay. So anyway, there's no name to this. I just wrote it that one time. If there was another place to live besides that entropic hutch of daily importance, I wouldn't so easily slide into the familiar days of recollection, which squeezes from its dusty crypt at the back of my mind into random moments, cringing at the shoulder, a palm to the head, like a tune I'd rather forget. The reality is, moments die as soon as they're born, and the memories left are only the impression of experience, molded into existence like a seal in hot wax, stamping its shape into the folds of our existence. And I live, spine crooked from the weight of boyhood, and I litter pages with the bones of its shadow. Years later, I gain new vision in the harshness of the aimless West, plucking out trails from the secret of a mountain. I would live in the rashness of ideal if conversation wasn't so flavored with the foolish regality of belief, that heady taste, all twinged by the sourness of identity. Rather, I'll break my back in simple living, carving out tomes from the fierceness of simplicity, like climbing trees in the salty wind of the Atlantic, where deer creep from woody whalebones into the empty landscape of shoreline, to stand, unknowing, players in the great operas of the sea. I would become winged and rise into the freedom of weightlessness, only to fold into the comfort of my own little circle, where with pinions feathered by the love I've grown from friendship, crashing safely into the sturdy certainty of earth, lowly, like as a boy when we dug holes for nothing and sang songs in the hallowed sanctum of basements, still sacred, held safe in the rough hands of localism. In April of '09, we went off trail in Woodstock, though we made it back to the cabin safe. In the tick-tick of passing time, not all of us survived. Yet with the bulk of us still kicking, we call each other for that taste of youth. And under the niceties of checking in, it's whispered like a secret spell. Nostalgia. Thank you. This next piece is called Fairhope, for anyone who knows Fairhope outside of Mobile. I wrote it while driving around Mobile, Alabama. I grew up in a beach town at the end of Long Island with the ocean to the south of me and the bay to the north of me, and I moved here and was like, what the fuck? Actually, I met a friend in college who was like, I grew up in a beach town with the Gulf, but the ocean to the south of me and the bay to the north of me. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I moved here and was like, holy shit. And I just have had a lot of moments where I've met grumpy locals and been like, oh, I know you, So yeah, this is called Fairhope. There's a hope nestled on the coast of Mobile Bay. We drove the long way and stopped at a scenic landing, stumbling on a scene of grumpy locals working their rusty histories in a collection of knowledge passed down with the insistence of the eternal tide. And suddenly, like an echo from a past life. A cloud of gulls rises in frustration, screaming at a docking boat as it bobs into its slip, shooing the birds from their rest and drawing my mind, unbidden, into memory. 100 years ago, homeless in ditch, Montauk again, shirtless, I was brought by a friend to a similar cove on a different bay. He showed me how to rake out clams from the exposure of low tide. They pissed and spat, angry at their sewing like the youth at war times. Later that day, we stumbled on a beach seal, edging it into the water, thinking it was lazy, only to find its sides splattered apart by buckshot. What a shame. He died young, the friend, not the seal, in the same house as his mother. And my parents were there again, humbled and scared. And then there's now, this familiar instance, odd like a recurring dream. The one where the song of the gulls, so clever, surrounds me, and the ageless lapping of current sets itself against the frame of my great love, who turns to me with her shining palm and feeds me water from the well of her knowing. Enlightened then by her, one-eyed, I sense the turning, the budding of a fresh life, the shriveled wilting of the old, from whose ashes emerges a new age, started here in the mouth of Alabama, the stench of the southern Gulf. With the loss of our own certain worlds, we lay out ideals as ingredients on the table of our intentions, and we debate with the eager voices of lovers as we drive back to the house where her father was raised, and never stop to imagine the years we lose to grief and anger with the sweet rush of the windows down, 45 on a coastline. Thank you.
Oh my God. Okay, don't try this at home. Just saying. Okay, let's hear it again for Brian. Jordan Staggs has been crafting stories since childhood, starting with poems and jokes written in crayon, and knew early on that the written word was her calling. A lifelong lover of books, magazines, and pop culture, with The Devil Wears Prada and 13 Going on 30 as early inspiration, she pursued a degree in journalism from the University of Alabama and found her creative home at V Magazine, where she's been part of the team since 2011. Today, Jordan serves as managing editor and resident word wizard at V and its parent company, the Idea Boutique. Over the past decade, she's written and edited countless stories, collaborated with writers around the world, authored luxury coffee table books, and helped bring bold ideas to life on the page and beyond. A poet, fiction writer, and dreamer at heart, she hopes to one day take readers on adventures through novels of her own. Jordan, come on up here.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Lucinda, and also congratulations on 3 years of Emerald Coast Storytellers. Like, that is so amazing, and I'm so excited to be here tonight. I'm going to start off with a poem that I wrote a little while ago. It doesn't necessarily fit the defining moments theme, but I've never read this one aloud before, so I thought, why not? And it's called There Goes the Rain. And I think I remember writing this on a rainy day, and it's about rainy days, but not necessarily bad days. Here comes the sun. They say it with such joy. Is the rain so bad? It stops us, forces us to become introspective. The sun blinds, the sun burns, the sun creates illusions in our minds and our eyes. It creates joy. Is it really there? Can you feel it? Feel the drops upon your skin. Things come seeping back into you, into your mind, into your body, into your heart. Illusions shattered, life crashing down around you, washing away everything you thought you knew, bringing back the things you thought before you found out what the sun felt like, stripping it away. Back to the beginning, bringing you back to life, bringing life back to us, and you know, it's all right. And then in thinking about the theme of tonight, defining moments, you know, there are so many of those in our lives, I think, but also one thing that just really stood out to me when I was trying to decide what I wanted to write about was change defines us even more than a moment. So it was really like, I saw a cicada on my screen the other night, like on my porch, and it was coming out of its shell, and I was like, well, that's a defining moment for that bug. I think I'm gonna like come up with something to go with that, and so it's all really more about change than one moment. And it's called Defining Changes. The only constant, changes, the only constant, constantly in motion, pushing, shaping, defining us until we have a notion for just an instant, an identity forged not by our own will, but by time, influence, or love. And yes, it all changes still, this new entity. I'm not my own. Centuries come before of those who pushed, shaped, shattered, those who broke down every door and reaped what they'd sown. We are the serpents, the scorpions who shed with each new sin, season, or sin. And comes change we face instead. Was it all worth it? Every trudge forward or victory or shining victory, visions, dreams, and never wills, do those moments define me? No, I am just change, the only constant, constantly in motion. Thank you, and that is it for me, but first I want to say thank you to Lucinda for being an amazing MC tonight, stepping up. And I'm going to introduce our featured storyteller for tonight, which is such an honor to me because she has been such an influence in many defining moments of my life. Miss Lisa Marie Burwell, who is the founder, editor-in-chief, creative director of V Magazine, the Idea Boutique marketing company. Lisa she was born in Boston and came down to this area about 30 years ago after working with television, radio, in advertising, and decided to become the marketing director of Seaside before starting her own company. And I just know that, like, defining moments, I believe there are at least 20 people here tonight that she has somehow been a part of a defining moment for them. So please welcome Lisa to the stage.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Emerald Coast Storytellers. Congratulations on your 3-year anniversary. Defining moments. I've had many of them. Most of them have been opportunities where I was very nervous or scared and I thought I was going down the tubes and things were not going to work out that well. And I have found in my life that that has been where I excel the absolute most when I am pushed up against the wall. So God had a funny trajectory of my life where I have been pushed up the wall many, many, many times. How V started in 2008 was one of those moments when the Great Recession happened and the Idea Boutique had 2 really large accounts that we were going to be losing at the end of the year. And my husband and I, Jerry Burwell, went home to New England on Thanksgiving, and we were talking about we have to lay everybody off. Don't know if I'm standing too close, not far enough. And I said, let's not do that. Let's make a magazine. And he said, well, what do you know about making a magazine? And I'm like, well, how hard can it be? And guess what? It's super hard to make a magazine. And that sort of hubris and fearlessness that I had was absolutely what I needed to start that journey. And sometimes I just wish that I was not that way at all, but that is how I've been made. And being courageous and also being able to stick to something has been probably 2 hallmarks of why I'm still standing here today. It is hard to do something for a long time, and it's hard to do it well, and V Magazine is in its 17th year right now. Thank you. Thank you. That is, if I was to name what I want to talk about right now, it's stay the course. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try at something, you can fail. You will fail, and that's okay. Failure is fine. But most often, I find that people never achieve their destiny and what they were meant to do in life because they give up. And I wanted to give up maybe 1,000 times in the last 17 years. What ended up happening when we started the magazine, which we published twice a year for the first 2 years, and then for a couple of years after that, 4 times a year, then it went up to 6 times a year for about 6 or 7 years, and 7 years ago, we started, actually 9 years ago, we started publishing the magazine monthly. So every 30 days for 9 years, we have brought forth a brand new issue, which is incredibly difficult to do. I don't do this on my own. I have amazing people, writers, designers, Jordan, many other people that have been with the company. Some are here right now that used to be with the company, and then they've gone on to do their thing. So it's definitely a collective, creative team effort, and I thank everybody that has touched this walk for me, and that we've been able to basically stay the course. What ended up happening the first 5 years of the magazine, which didn't make 1 dime and probably lost many dimes, was that people would come to me and say, oh, do you want to publish a book for me, Sister Schubert Rolls? I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're very delicious. And anyway, she had a Ukrainian orphanage, and she wanted us to publish a book for her, so we designed it, took the photos, Ghost wrote it, and brought it to market in 9 months, and then all of the copies sold, and it was wildly successful. So I said, well, why did you come to me to write your book when I've never published a book before? And she said, well, if you can make a magazine that looks like V, then I know you could publish my book. So we've got about 7, 8 books under our belt right now. So the magazine did many, many things. It brought great clients to the Idea Boutique that did make money when V was not making money, and we would just pour the money back into this love that I had, blind love, blind passion to make a beautiful magazine that was for the everyman, even though we have a lot of celebrities in the magazine, because that's just basically marketing and it does help sell magazines. But the magazine's ethos is to celebrate the everyman who I find just as amazing as a celebrity, and to tell stories. In 2008, 200 magazines went out of business. The same year we opened the magazine. Gourmet Magazine, that had been in business for something like 70 years, which was one of my favorite magazines, had gone out of business, and many, many others. And I asked myself, how am I making a magazine in the same year that 200 magazines have gone dark? And it didn't really bother me that much, because I knew V wasn't like all of the other magazines that I had seen before, because it was telling stories about everyone and every man. And people at the beginning said, well, don't you think you should have less stories in the magazine because you're going to run out of things to write about? And I'm like, not once in 17 years have I found that we have run out of things to write about, because people are fascinating and they're interesting, and we get to meet amazing people, and we get to experience things, and the magazine has opened doors for all of us that otherwise would never have been opened. It has been the gift of my life to be able to ask somebody to write, if we could feature them in the magazine. One example was maybe 7 years ago. I was having a difficult time wondering, how long am I going to do this? When am I going to see the magazine achieve what it set out to achieve, which, by the way, was not to be a local magazine. It was to be a national magazine. And I always had that intent from the very beginning, that no matter how small we were when we started, the goal was going to be basically for it to be the best magazine that there was. I loved Vogue many years ago. I don't think Vogue is exactly what it was before. Vanity Fair. I mean, we were going for that level, if not even pushing the envelope as far as we possibly could. So 17 years later, 2 years ago, V Magazine was voted one of the top best 50 luxury magazines in the world. That was nothing, we did not ask for that. Thank you. The magazine is enjoying like 1 million impressions a month. People love the magazine. When we decided to go monthly 9 years ago, we had these parties and junkets where we would go to Dallas, Chicago, New York, New Orleans, Dallas, and we would throw these parties, Boston, and we would invite people there. We would write about the stories, and that was a very old-fashioned idea, very 1980s, face-to-face, have a party. That's all I had the idea to do, and that's the only amount of money that I had to be able to do that, because I didn't have $200,000 or $300,000 to throw at Google pay-per-clicks, which was all the rage then, and that's how people were getting the juice to grow their magazines and do all sorts of other things. So it's been a very long road that we had to just figure out how to make it work. The year before COVID, we had some great experiences. We had Tina Brown on the cover. We went to New York. We photographed her on her phone. Tina Brown, for some people that don't know her, she was the editor-in-chief of Vanity Fair and The New Yorker. She and Anna Wintour worked together at Condé Nast in London, and they were friends, and they both basically went to their boss and said, well, you can give her Vanity Fair, but I want Vogue. And that's how they went along their course. When I was a journalism major in college and would read these magazines, and I thought Tina Brown was sophisticated, intelligent, a fantastic writer, and she's authored many books, many of them about the royal family in England. And I really couldn't believe that I was going to go to her house, and Jordan and I and a couple of other people with our lead photographer from Italy, when we needed a very good photo shoot, were en route to New York, and that was the year before the pandemic. And we basically styled her, told her what to wear, and I was pinching myself saying, how am I telling this woman, this goddess of publishing, what she should have on, how she should wear her hair? And she was somewhat intimidated. And I thought, well, maybe I'm misreading this. Why is she intimidated? You know, she's Tina Brown. And then she kept looking at the magazine, and she said, so I'm going to be on the cover of this magazine? I said, yes, you're going to be on the cover of the magazine. It's going to be on newsstands? Yes, it's going to be on newsstands. And it was a big moment for her. I mean, she put Demi Moore on the cover of Vanity Fair when she was pregnant, and that was like this wildly outrageous thing to do many years ago. And she was a creative, front runner and doing outrageous things to keep, the magazine going. So she said, if I ran Vanity Fair right now, I would not have any idea what to do. How do you know what to do? And who owns this magazine? And I said, well, I do. And she said, well, who's the publisher? I am. And she was just like, could not understand like how that could happen. So I realized at that moment that we had done something and crossed over some bridge that I didn't even realize that we had crossed over, when my idol from my younger years was aghast at how we could stay open and how we were making this magazine. It has not been easy. There have been times when there was no money and there wasn't enough money, and people that work for me know when I say, well, okay, well, I have to go find money, and people will laugh. I go, no, actually, I really do have to go find money, because magazines are very expensive to produce every 30 days. And the whole machine of making the magazine and making it great and making it better than the one before, when we have about 155 issues under our belt right now, is what we strive for, and it's absolute excellence. Each and every time, and kudos to the team who are the hands and the legs and everything that makes that magazine and keeps it cooking, and they do an amazing job. And they have the same passion for their craft that I have for the magazine as well. I have joked to myself, if the magazine didn't look as good as it or better than it did before, and I didn't care about that, I would not want to make the magazine anymore, and I would quit. And I'm happy to say that we aren't there yet. We still keep pushing the envelope. 9 years ago, actually, I started a magazine in Ireland also in 2014. It was completely outrageous. My mother had passed away. She lived in Ireland, and my sisters and I inherited her home. I wanted to go there. I wanted to know the townspeople. I wanted to be part of the fabric of their community, so I wanted to make a magazine there. So we did that. And we were there for 4 years, and the team would go over, and we'd have big parties, and we made a beautiful magazine, and I loved doing it. It was totally pushing the envelope because we were still making V as well and still had the marketing firm open. It was a failure financially, and we ended up deciding that we needed to close it. Thank God we did, because the pandemic hit about 8 months later. Had we not closed the magazine, we wouldn't have even been able to get over there to shut the office down or whatever. So my husband didn't love me making the magazine in Ireland as much as I did at all. I was so happy doing it. It was very, very hard for me to do that. After some reflection, maybe a year later, when I thought about, wow, that was so crazy that I did that. I thought, why did you let me do that? And he said, I don't know how to say no to you. And I go, you're really gonna have to start learning how to say no to me, because sometimes I can come up with some crazy ideas. And I said, really, I was working out my grief over my mom's passing, and I wanted to make this magazine in honor of her and my deceased relatives over there, and I wanted to make them proud, even though they were no longer here before, no longer here. And then I shared that with my husband, and he said, okay, do you think you maybe could have found a least expensive way to work out your grief? And I'm like, actually, no, that was the only way. I actually knew how to do it. Thank you. It was really, really crazy. So there have been many twists and turns along the road. And when I came back from Ireland on one of the junkets that we were over there, and we had a big photo shoot, Christian Siriano and models from Dublin and all sorts of fantastical movie-like lifestyle that basically we were creating and manifesting on our own. When I came back on one of those trips 9 years ago, I told my husband that I think we have to really decide what to do with the magazine, because there was so much money going out the door. We had survived an oil spill 2 years after we opened. We opened in the recession, and it was a long haul and an immense amount of sacrifice to continue to labor over in this magazine. And I thought the smartest thing to do would be to close it. Not that many people know that, very few. And that's where we were headed, because we were just going to keep doing the Idea Boutique, and we thought it had a good run, but too much money was going out the door. So through counsel, through reflection and prayer, we basically were led to not only keep it open, but to grow it with an absolute vengeance and a passion, and do not let the hand off the plow. So for 9 years, that is what we have done. And it's forced us to continue to grow layers with a podcast, more book publishing, more junkets around the globe, better everything, because we had to continue on our journey to grow this as far as we could. And when you think about doing something for 9 years, when it technically was no longer your desire or your passion, but you kept your hand to the plow for 9 more years because that is what we felt that we were supposed to do. It ended up being my destiny, and it ended up being a God-given calling that I had, and I always loved the magazine, and I never stopped loving it, and have been doing this out of sheer will and sheer obedience to that is what we're supposed to do. And if there's one takeaway, because there's been so many different stories and so many wonderful things that have happened and very, very hard things that we've had to overcome, myself, my husband, and the team as well. But the love of what we do is real and it's genuine. But what I've seen happen to the magazine in those 9 years that wouldn't have been my choice, actually, that is when it's had its most exponential growth. And by staying the course, that is how we've achieved what we've achieved. And most people won't stay the course. That is why most people cannot achieve what they were supposed to achieve. I still have very, very big and grand plans and beliefs that V is going to become a global publication. And I think that actually may even be here sooner than we think. I encourage you to just take some keys, words of wisdom, that if you want to do something and you want it bad enough and you don't quit, you can do the impossible. You can do what you're not supposed to be able to do. I should not have been able to get this far. Stay the course. Thank you.
Okay, let's please give another round of applause for Lisa. That was incredible. And thank you, everybody that not only read tonight, but listened and joined and maybe laughed at a couple of our jokes as well. We would, like we said earlier, we would not be here without the community that's here tonight. So thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. But we have a couple events coming up. We are very excited to announce that we have our next writing night at the distillery on the 17th. Please, I mean, there's going to be us, there's going to be writing, there's going to be vodka. So, you don't have to come for me. You can come for the vodka. That'll be fine. And then next month on the 14th, we have a writer's workshop with Trisha. It's called Confidence for Creatives, a workshop with spoken word poet, speech coach, and TEDx speaker Trisha Veldman. Round of applause. It's going to be very fun. It's on our website for more information. And then on the 21st, we have our next Storytellers, August Storytellers, featuring a special collaboration with Eckelberg, a literary magazine started by Ray Klein, who you had the pleasure of hearing from tonight. So that's very exciting. Stay tuned for more info coming soon. And then September story pairing dinner with M&P. Tickets are very limited and are officially on sale now. So everybody just go to our website, go to our social media for more information, and thank you everybody for being here tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you.